Thank you for coming. It's a pleasure to be here and to have as a guest Nuits Balnéaires. He's a photographer coming from Côte d'Ivoire. He's working mainly on portraits and is depicting local culture there. So yeah, you're gonna discover more of his work pretty soon. When we first met, we realized we were sharing a similar practice together, despite we were working with two different media. We're really looking into unvalued pieces of culture, art, or from a site, and we try to reveal them and give them another shine in order to empower the people behind them and to give them trust to continue. So we prepare a short presentation. We're gonna divide it in 3 chapters: a site to explain each time a context, then how we bring an idea into that site, and then how we work with structure for architecture, technical elements for photography. So for the site, we're gonna start with the 2 projects of architecture. They're located in Côte d'Ivoire, so it's a western part of Africa. We're gonna look at 3 cities, especially, so Grand-Bassam with Nuits Balnéaires, Tengala and Grand Lahou, when we built the 2 libraries and 1 teacher house. So we went to work on project there thanks to this team of teachers there. They all are teaching in the country from high school to college, and they agree that the level of education given by the government is not enough. So they work a lot in order to provide extra for students in order to reach an acceptable level. So they contact a team in Geneva first to fund a first building, which was the library in Grand Lahou. And when we saw the plan with my friends, we were shocked to build such a European or Western building in Africa. So we made a contra proposal. They didn't want so happy before at first, but when they saw the plan, they immediately accept to get us in the team, and we start the collaboration from there. So the first site in Grand Lahou is located on this kind of neighborhood. It's quite a warm climate, but still with a strong rainy season. And this kind of neighborhood, they look not exactly the same, but they have similar characteristics with others in the country. They're all dictated by a strict grid. You can have a look. You can imagine it with the in-between lines, a grid of rectangular plots. And inside that grid, it's completely informal in the sense that they build almost day by day new pieces of construction, and it's quite organic, the development. So if we zoom at one, what we get quite focused on was the fact that it's similar boxes, similar piece of a house, that it's all connected with an external corridor. And in our reading, that comes from not really from the plot, that's kind of a negliged element, but it's more coming from the vernacular architecture that was also shaped with small units that were enabling people to gather all around in a central space. So we use that typology, let's say, in our building to recreate it and arrange our program in the same way. So we divided the 4 small offices we had to place in the program into small units, and together they form in the center the main space. In our project, it's not an outside space because we need to bring books inside, but still this spatial configuration we made, and for us it's our way to really anchor it into the context. The second project in Tengala, so that's time in the north of the country, it's a much more drier environment. But if you look at the plan, the site plan, it's almost the same as Grand Lahou. It's the same grid, the same exact dimension, although there are 1,000 kilometers that divide the 2 cities. So when we first look at it and study it, we were quite amazed by the one on the perimeter of the area, because they're much more free and they deal with much more organic walls. So we made a collection of them. We studied them and we drew many, and that's a few selection we got. So, and we tried to incorporate the way they were using the wall into the grid. So if we zoom into our, the first gesture we had was to create this half circle in order to give more space to the public and less for the client. So you can imagine he wasn't happy at all when we made that proposal, because he's losing almost 10% of square meter. However, for us, it was a strong way to connect the library to people not willing to come. And you have to imagine that with the high level of analphabetization, a library can be kind of imposing. So maybe you're not really have the courage to go there. So we start the project with the wall, which is really, in our opinion, the first character of the project. And we don't really know if it's how it's working now. We didn't want that, but at least animals love it already. So it's a first success. Of course, we plant a tree in the middle of the circle, so it's provide shadow, natural shadow. And also in the country, the tree is still a strong element of meeting for people. So we hope it can also enable people to come. Then, as I told you, we have a program of a teacher house and the library. So we divided the plot quite straightforward between the program for the library and the one for the house. And what I wanted to show you is also how we incorporate the entrances to each building. So for the house, we kept the entrances from the street in order for the house to feel confident and not special. And the library instead is really sponging out of the circle. So it gets a major statue and invite people to join. So that's the house. It's hiding behind the wall. So people have some privacy out there. And instead, the library is really coming and telling, hey, I'm there, please come inside. And we hope that these two gestures can enable more people to join. And even though they would not come to the library, we still install that long bench around the wall so people can gather outside of the building and enjoy that interaction. So now I'm gonna leave the word to Nuits Balnéaires.
I'll give you a quick overview of my work in general. My work is very much inspired by the energy of the Golfe of Guinea region, which is the region that extends from around Senegal to Gabon, that part in the Atlantic Ocean. And I've always felt a very strong energy while going to Grand-Bassam, which is a small seaside town around Abidjan. And I moved there 3 years ago, and I started to develop a few body of works. This work is from my series called Scent of Apollonia. It's inspired by the observation of the landscape I did there through the time. It's also an homage to the tribe, to the land of the tribe living all along that coastline called the Nzima. It's a tribe living in Grand-Bassam and to Axim. That region from Grand-Bassam to Axim is the main part where they live. This work is called Fleur d'Apollonie. This one is called Golfe de Guinée. So it's also a reference to that coastline. This one is Scent of My Soul. It's about the states of my spirit when I'm there, the balance I found in that space. In the left part, we have Chez Tanti Suzy, which is a reference to the gastronomic culture of that place. And on the right side is a commission that I did for a South African platform called the Bubblegum Club. I took inspiration in the deities who populated the ocean in that region. and also the feminine energy. At the left part, we have another work commissioned for a journal, a Nigerian journal called Jida. And on the right part, we have another work created for Bubblegum Club, a South African platform, with an Ivoirian artist called La Falaise Dion. And on the left part, we have also this work. It's a collaboration I did with a Nigerian brand called Go. And this work is also for Jida Journal. I shot all of those works in Grand-Bassam. This is a work from a series called Redemption. It's a series in which I work with objects that I find on the beach. I try to evocate the pollution issue we have in Grand-Bassam with the plastic that we have all over the beaches, all over the cities. And I use, I take some elements on those beaches and I use them as clothes or as sculpture. It's a way for me to take part also in the pain that the nature is experiencing with all this pollution. These are some works that I created with the image I collected of the library in Tangrela with Damien. And these two works also are some collage works that I create based on those works. Now I'll give you a brief overview also of the context of Grand-Bassam. Grand-Bassam used to be the first colonial capital of Ivory Coast. So it's a small seaside town of 90,000 people. And as you can see on the image, the architecture, there's still this colonial architecture that for some of those buildings are like in decay, and some has been also well conserved. Some are also in the renovation process. We have this annual celebration there called Abidjan, where all the local community celebrated a new year for them. This has some image of the local architecture. This is Centre Culturel. These are also some details of the walls of the Centre Culturel, and this is another building that you can find a lot of this type of building in Quartier France neighborhood. I will share now a short video from a house project I have with my friend in Grand-Bassam. His name is Bayo Hassan Bello. He's a curator from Nigeria. And we had a need to create a small space to live out there because it's very complicated to find a house in the Quartier France, neighborhood. So we built this little construction with wood as a response to the house.
As you mentioned before, many buildings, they are protected by UNESCO law, so they're super difficult to intervene on them. So that's why they respond creating this shelter around.
To go back inside here.
Okay, thank you.
I give you back there.
Yes, so when we arrived in Grand Laou, the first element we really get fascinated by was this concrete block, even though it's even common here in Europe, but there it's really the first mean of construction, although it's not really a structural element. So if you look at the back of the picture, on the wall, you can see some wooden shelf for concrete. So they're pouring concrete after they build the concrete blocks. So they need to have to, in order to sustain, to be a proper building, to have some reinforced concrete columns and beams all around them. So it's a used material, but it's not really meant so much for construction. So starting from this observation, we decided to look at the bricks really in plan, and we break them in order first to give them a major stability. So that was our first idea. Then we multiply them to form a wall, and that gesture allows us to create ventilation. So in between, the wall doesn't really exist as one element, but it's more a series of modules, and in between, air can pass. Then we start to fill up some functionality to that wall. On the outside, we added some sittings, and on the inside, we added furniture elements, which are bookshelves. So you can see there from the inside. And an advantage of that, of having a furniture that is already integrated in your building, like so precisely, is that the client cannot say at the end of the construction, I have no more money and I don't make it. And then they go to get a cheap shelf. So if it's really part of the building, then it's made from the beginning. And on the outside, we created that sitting elements. And when we get published, we got quite a nice quote that was that our wall was kind of inhabited by on both space. And for us, it's quite it's a cool quotation, because we really imagine that wall, instead of being an element of division, it created a strong connection between the inside and the outside. And also you have to imagine that in such a warm country, the inside and outside, it's quite more blurry than in Europe, where we protect from cold, and you cannot get fresh climate inside so much. So usually if a building is badly built, people tend to stay outside of it more than the inside. Then on the second project, that's the plan of Tengala, of the library on top and the teacher housing on the bottom. We try to reinterpret that wall structure still by including a bookshelf inside. Here's the section. However, we were having no means of adding some sitting element on the outside, because if we go back to the plan, we are already in the perimeter of the library, so it doesn't make points to attract people to sit on the building. So what we tried to do on that one was to blur even more the kind of barrier we can find it between inside and outside. And we painted everything with this yellow color, and everything is made by the same materiality. So it's all these wooden planks that divide it, and you have the same aspect both in the wall and in the ceiling. It's protected by a elevated ceiling, so the warmth doesn't get too much into the building, then it's fully ventilated. And yeah, by that we feel that this barrier is more blurred than ever before. That's a picture by Nuits Balnéaires. And this kind of detail, we try to also incorporate it from the outside. So when people can come, just by color, we add some colors on the beams. So even from the outside and on the door, for example, it's kind of inviting, and the limits between each space is not so much defined like that. Then in terms of structure, that's few elements we learned from the process that were useful for us. And by structure, I mean like all the technical elements, but also like the detail and all these kind of thing that if you don't do them well, you can have a good idea, a good side proposal, but then your building will not look that nice. So it's important as well. So that's the plan of Grand-Bassam. And when I look at it now, I still think it's quite a crazy plan. Also, if you imagine that we have to send it to such a far country. However, our trick was to have such a rigid grid behind it that they were not able to mess up with the foundation and everything. And actually, the only part that went wrong on the construction site was the part that it's not aligned on the grid. So it's really proven that the grid is quite important to have. In order to ensure it was really respecting our plan, we went there at the first layer of construction of the walls. So that's my friend Luis, with who I'm working with Atelier. And we really wanted to carefully place the brick. And here you can see another trick. That was that the curvy wall, I mean, not curvy, but wavy. In order to place it, you just had to place another layer of brick, that one on the other direction, and then it was giving you the dimension of the gap. So you didn't need any measurements in order to place the wall. We also brought with us almost an IKEA booklet with a step-by-step construction. So that allows us that even though we would not have the same vocabulary or the same ways of doing, every step was properly documented and everyone was able to follow. Also, we did that because on the construction, many were not professionals. So if we had professional, they were super good and we were able to rely on them, but most of them were volunteers. So maybe they would not have seen a plan in their life. So in addition to that, again, we brought a precise model that was super useful to discuss precise detail. For example, when we brought it there, we realized they did not like the roof, how it was made, because it was too much ventilated in their opinion. So we had to cut the model on site, reshape it, and we made that other proposal. So it was a really super useful tool. On the second library, instead in Tengala, because of COVID and instability in Mali, Tengala is really close to Mali. The Swiss embassy did not advise us to go there. So we had to do everything remote. It was quite a challenge. One super good strategy we established was to ask picture every day. So we were receiving about 20 to 50 pictures a day of the construction site. However, you have to figure out it's not Canon picture that someone will take properly. It's like a bad cell phone that everything is blurry. Sometimes never it's straight, but still it was a super cool document to work. And I think that 5 years before, like smartphone would not have arrived to such a good level as it is today. So it would not have been possible also for internet commodities. We, of course, also sent many drawings, axonometries or elevation. Some were super precise about the colors, for example. So we really specify which color was supposed to go where. And in addition, that time we asked to an artist, it's Alejandra Oviedo, to draw the project even before it was built. So our idea with that was to incorporate everyone's imagination in the project. So everyone could project and have a clear understanding of it. Then to finish speaking about structure, another change between Tengala and Grand-Bassam was the confidence we get with the client, which was the same partner. And on the first one, he wasn't trusting us so much as a young architect. You have to know, I think we built the first library 1 month after we get our bachelor. So yeah, he wasn't super confident. And on that one, since the first one was built already, he was trusting on much more. So for example, that seat, it's quite an invention from the dialogue. If you look at it carefully, it looks as a chair. However, it's a bench and the backrest is fixed to the wall. So it's kind of in between, and it's an invention so that they can take the the bench and move it around. And when they bring it back, it becomes a chair and they don't destroy the back wall. From the outside, we were also knowing more about their ability and their willingness to go into some detail. We were able, for example, to use that knowledge. For example, one super small detail, but that changed really a lot in the building appearance is that triangle on the bottom. It allows rain to not enter in the building because behind you have a wall, but it's difficult to really choose the height precisely because of the brick dimension. So that was protecting it. And again, with the colors, we are quite happy of what we get. And so to conclude, today, like both libraries, they're working full time and they are having a dozen of events every year, I would say. And every week there are almost 100 of children that comes and have educational lessons, school instruction, help and stuff. And they're also making other kind of event. Lastly, in Tengala, there were Women's Day, also in Côte d'Ivoire. It was a worldwide movement. So the building was full of women of the age of my mom. They were discussing about civil rights, about their future. And of course, if this meeting could have happened in any place, just because of the building, we hope that the architecture can help them to have much more empowerment about their ambition and go further in the discussion.
In September 2019, right after I moved in Grand-Bassam, there was an important flood because of the water of the lagoon, the level have raised. And all over the Quartier France neighborhood, the water take over the different buildings. So I was living there. I was just in the middle of that situation, and I started to capture how the population was going through that period. But I've been very fascinated also by the resilience that I observed within that moment, and I started to question a bit more the values shared within that community. So I started to work on a project called The Power of Alliances. The Power of Alliances was born from this discovery of the alliance existing within 7 families in Grand-Bassam. And each of those families have some symbols. So I tried to illustrate those families and symbols through a body of work. I drew inspiration from the Egyptian and Nubian iconography, but also from the local architecture, also the way people also dress. And also I took some inspiration also from my fashion works and portrait works. The outcome is this series called The Power of Alliances. Each image attempts to illustrate the different families. Here we have Ezoile. Ezoile have a symbol, the rice, the cats, the water, and they consider themselves as king of the kings in the community. They dress very well. They're not supposed to walk on the normal sand. They have to walk on the skin of white sheep and to move on back of elephants. So they consider themselves really as the kings of the kings, and they it's a family we're supposed to be very proud. So this is Ezoile. Here we have Mafole. Mafole have a symbol, the gold and the silver. They are gold miners initially, and they found gold while taking out from the ground a specific plant. These people are actual members of the Mafole grand family. Also, this work has been built during the COVID, so I had also to find ways, because I couldn't access to all families. I had to find ways also to still work with the community, but to keep illustrating the symbols of each family. Here we have Adaonlin. Adaonlin have assembled the parrots and the palm seed. Adaonlin are known to be a family who raised the kid very well. They are very good teachers, as very good educators, and for them, the base of a good education is the alimentation, is the food. They see in the palm seed that element that's the base of the good education of a kid. The story of the parrots is that a member of this family was lost in the forest and was about to be murdered. And the parrot, while repeating the cryings of this member of the family, has allowed the family to find her. So the parrot became a symbol for them. Here we have Mbavile. Mbavile is the symbol of Mbavile is corn, but they are also the ones who brought Abissa. Abissa is the annual celebration where all the community come together and celebrate. It's also a moment where all the problem of the year are discussed, and through songs they express to the kings all what they have been happy during the year. Here we still have an image from Adaonlin, was a symbol, the parrot and the palm seed. Here we have Azonlé. Azonlé have a symbol, the yam. For them, it's a symbol of unity. But the women of that family are known to be experts in crying. They are very good criers, and that's how they help the community in moment in funerals moments or very, very painful moments. The right part, we have another image from Adaonlin. Here we have the family called Unjua. They have a symbol, the dog and the fire. They are known for the capacity to be very, very balanced, very, very calm. For them, the fire and the dog in each human have to be mastered. By fire, you can also hear like the being hungry, for instance, and the dog is more a symbol also of disorder, if we want, and we have to canalize those emotions. To finish, we have Alomba. Alomba have a symbol, calabash and raffia. And for them, those are symbols of tenacity and bravery. In this, for Adaonlin, I tried very much to exaggerate a bit the symbols with this structure, a bit like an antenna to kind of connect with the spiritual words. So it's a work that I've mostly built with the community. I worked, because Grand-Bassam is also a hub for artisans, artists, and it was very interesting to just work with the local artisans on the different clothes, bronze elements you can find, for instance, here, or like all the different props that I've used for this body of work, the sculpture here. And it was also very interesting to see how the kids or the young people I was working with was very proud to just see the family and the history being illustrated and being represented. Thank you.